So real no ban switch up. So what does that leave up if you're B1 and you want it BNK? It's a classic. Talia going to be in VicLa's hands here for game 2.
This was always going to be either Talia or Xin Zhao. It's just the way they like to play. It's really a consistent formula for this team that they've gone to throughout basically all of this year. Talia, to me, makes the most sense because I think it can pair off with a lot of the remaining junglers a little bit more efficiently, especially with things like Wukong, Poppy taken off the board. Talia definitely rises in popularity or in priority with that. But the question is, does Kalix want to immediately go for the counter pick? Looks at least like it will be that with the Akali coming in. Now, I do want to say, not impossible for this to be flexed. We've already seen some crazy things happen at this tournament, but I would expect this to go mid lane. We've seen a lot of teams, really favoring this Akali counter pick. I myself am not as big of a fan of it. I think Talia still has a lot of priority in this lane, but, we'll see how it ends up going for him.
I would agree with you, Kman. I do think, at least for Akali, you always have the outplay potential, right? That's what this champion does. It can really overcome some of the rougher parts of a lane if you just find the perfect window to perfectly execute your combination on this Akali. Xin Zhao gonna get thrown into the hands of GIDEON, so classic pre-skirmish heavy comp here for Nongshim. They're gonna definitely look to play fast once again in a game up against BNK at the ASI.
Yeah, I mean, this team doesn't want to play slow. Certainly not with the way that game number 1 went. You want to keep your foot on the pedal. Pedal to the metal in terms of how you want the tempo of the game to go. I think taking Xin Zhao away from Raptor as well makes a lot of sense, but Raptor going to be locking in that Lee Sin. Very excited to see this. Raptor, a very good Lee Sin player, as basically everybody coming out of Korea typically is at tournaments like this. You can never really, take it lightly, but that is a lot of early game power coming in now with Jace as well, locked onto the top side. BFX said, I don't really care. You played Orianna Jarvan last game. You team fought us. We're not going to let you get to the team fight stage of this game.
Yeah, Kevin, this is the fun part is, again, want to go back to the idea that LCK, the top 4 have established the region, is really like playing slow, waiting for, good fight conditions with their compositions. But the meat and potatoes of the LCK with Nongshim and BNK, they throw down just like LPL fans are pretty comfortable with their home region doing, and we are set for that sort of game here in Game 3. It's going to be the Gragas for Kingen going to come across another sort of weak side AP top laner to try and just nullify this top lane lead. It's both comps or both teams getting exactly what they want for the style that they've played towards all year long.
Yeah, now it's just all about banning out the champions that the other has played a lot of. Things like Braum, Rakan could very easily be bans. Things like Kai'Sa that we threw out. Even the Sivir, I think, could potentially be an option as a ban coming in from Nongshim. Now, on the other side of that, they themselves probably want to ban out the Sivir of BFX, that is, with how comfortable Jiwoo has felt on the champion, how much that can help things like Xin Zhao and Akali that do want to try and gap close, but looks like it's just going to be a trade of support bans right now. We'll see if, Elise or Shen could potentially come out here. I think it could definitely be a possibility that I'm throwing out into the air here.
I would really hope to see the Elise, because I do think you can at least argue, okay, yeah, there are Elise lanes that can slam early, and if you play fast enough before this champion falls off, not a cliff, a peak on the side of Mount Everest, I would say, really comes across here. There's the Kai'Sa ban for Diable, so respect towards that tape you did back in the day, even for the LCK CL to the LCK itself. Diable will not get the Kai'Sa in this game. And I am really curious what the AD carry matchup looks like. Take away Corki too, so we talked a bit about just hyper carry AD carries are really some of the most picked. But in this game state, they aren't really that valuable to how the flow is going to go. So what do you have left? The safety of an Ezreal is the answer here for Jiwoo.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Again, just opens up more options. You want to stay as flexible as possible here, especially with things like Akali and Xin Zhao already selected. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself in for that R5 into a spot where you have to pick something in particular. Now, obviously, Ezreal has a couple of pretty notable pairings. We'll see if things like Karma end up coming through as the final pick here for Nongshim, but it leaves it up to BFX to kind of choose. Do they want to double down on the early game, go for something like Caitlyn Elise, or do they want to try and get some late game power? It is going to be the Xayah Rakan, the Lover duo coming in for Diable and Kellin. I really like this adaptation from them in Game 2.
I enjoy the creativity and the playmaking that you now get from Kellin and Raptor in this game. I think Lee Sin and Rakan can play very well together in skirmish sort of scenarios. For Nongshim, though, yeah, I mean, I would like to see Lehends just throw down the Karma, because as much power as the Lover's Duo can bring you, you can kind of just knock them out of lane early, and double poke can be really annoying for Rakan to deal with. So if they want to kind of play to win in lane, you go that way, but Lehends wants to be a playmaker for team fighting, and will lock the Rel in for a not common bottom lane pairing here from Nongshim.
I think this comp is so hard to play for Nongshim. Like, I think this game is looking, and not impossible or anything like that. I certainly don't think BFX scale perfectly into the late game, but, you know, it's just a comp that I think requires a ton of execution from Nongshim, and they had that in game number 1. If they can have that same kind of execution coming out here in game number 2, I think that's going to be fine. But you are sacrificing a lot of that 2v2 pressure going into Zyrakan when you pick the Rel. I don't think Akali has the easiest matchup in the world. I don't think Xin Zhao is going to have a free early game going into Lise on myself there. So it looks like we're finally getting into game here.
Yeah,
You see the runes up on the screen. We are getting closer and closer to potentially seeing either BFX tie up this series or Nongshim taking that 2-0.
First time, definitely not the last. We are seeing the LCK middle of the pack seed teams face off here. Do we have our first full series on tap at the Asia Invitational? It's on to BNK and Diable at the center stage to do it, as we are on to the Rift. Remote diff will not keep us out of this game any further. And we can see the starts coming across for both of our squads. Pretty neutral, especially from the BNK side. No, it's going to be just a classic, maybe push for a Raptors ward. I think it's just going to be a classic trade of that. Nothing too spicy just yet.
Yeah, I don't think either of these comps necessarily want to throw the game at level 1, so it does make sense that they're playing a little bit safer here, especially with things like Lee Sin on the map that can be quite problematic. You're even looking at, you know, Xin Zhao and Rel and, you know, champions that can at least, you know, impact the game a little bit. So definitely interesting to see, to me, what the jungle pathing will be. How aggressive does Raptor want to get in the early game here? I think he has pretty free reign to do so in the same way that, you know, he kind of did at times, or at least, you know, had the opportunity to do it in game number 1. We'll see if he takes more advantage of it. Had a lot of camps taken away from him in that first game. Might do that more willingly here in game 2 if that means he can get some map pressure.
Saw Gideon do a good job trading those camps for map pressure last game too. So I'm now realizing we have skipped over something very obvious, that I believe the LCK was really starting to push. We saw AD carries go mid lane to try and get a bit of a lead, but now we have, I kind of love this, Jiwoo. Safest AD carry you can really buy is the Ezreal. It's going to lane into this Jace, so they are funneling Jiwoo early on here for Nongshim.
Definitely kind of relevant in terms of how this game might break down. You do want to make sure that your Ezreal is in as good of a spot as possible. When I think of the way that this comp ends up working, you need to make sure that you have that long-range damage coming in. If he plays this correctly, this lane is really hard for clear, as we saw there with the interaction, because you can just E backwards and make sure that you don't really take any of the melee range Jace damage. And if that's going to be the case, again, things get a little bit spicy. But right now, the rotations are already coming up from both of the supports.
Oh, yeah.
There's in danger.
There we go, Jiwoo throwing down flashes. It gets the last auto. Clear was just a little bit too late, and we are getting Ezreal cooking. It's Slayer's dream scenario of a game to cast.
And it's Jiwoo's dream series so far for a player that has struggled quite a bit in 2025. He has been exceptionally good. This is the second time in 2 games that he's been able to generate an individual lead for himself. Now with that first blood. And here is that lane I was talking about. VicLa, Kalix in the mid lane, Talia into Akali. You know, a lot of pros have really favored the Akali side of this matchup, taking it in draft. I just don't know if I agree. I think Talia's going to have a ton of shove and a ton of pressure here. To play that with a Lee Sin could be very dangerous. Right now, we'll see if they can take advantage of a level 4 Jiwoo.
Oh, I mean, it's level 1 Lehends as well, by the way. There's the crash down. That's all Lehends has got, and I think Jiwoo is going to have to finally take that reset. My question, Kman, becomes, does he work his way back top lane? You've got Kingen with teleport as well. Do you swap back now, or do you continue to try and keep these sort of wacky lane assignments? Lehends is level 1, and Lehends is dead. Oh, flash, the shield on the crash down will be enough to actually save him, but Lehends nearly did the, what should we call it, split 3 Lehends tradition of dying very early?
I think that that's a pretty fair way to maybe identify what was going on there. Genuinely have no clue what he was looking for in that play. I understand that maybe you want to try and greed for some XP, but you know, level 2 is not worth the death. Quite frankly, level 2 should be happening any second now. So we do see that swap coming back, though. Kingen moving his way back to the top side. I think with that gold and that kill going over to Jiwoo, you want to now use this to take advantage of the bot side because you can trade a little bit more efficiently now on the Ezreal, and this should help Lehends get back into the game a little bit easier. We're going to get a replay here of exactly what happened. He's just going to, I mean, he lands the W, he arcane shifts forward, auto attack, Q, auto attack. Yep.
I mean,
that's,
in that early lane, I hadn't seen. I don't think Jiwoo missed it in a single skill shot. And if you hit all your skill shots in Ezreal, you don't lose a lot of matchups. I'll tell you firsthand on that one.
That is that's the fun part of Ezreal. It's why so many people end up favoring him. Is he really?
If you miss all your skill shots, though, you don't win a lot of them. Okay, VicLa, that is. Oh, does he steal away? Okay, steals away a little bit of chickens. Is that a worth trade for my flash? No. No, it's not. Lehends is level 2, though. Let's go. What did it take, 5 minutes? Yep, about 5 minutes. Jiwoo going to get knocked up here, too. They get the Blade Caller back. Diable, one auto short. Again, Jiwoo escaping with a blinking health bar.
Yeah, the real problem here is that they have no way to deal with Kellin if Lehends is level 2. It's really difficult for them to play out this fight, and now Lehends is alone.
Oh, they're going to dive onto him. Kellin, great flash to get away from the turret, and Lehends is punished. Level 2 at 6 minutes in. Boy, oh boy, not a fun world for this rel.
This is the most Lehends game I can think of, and quite frankly, that dive was the most Diable and Kellin duo lane thing I can think of, where Kellin does a ton of the work, ends up setting up a lot of really kind of everything that ends up going down, you know, layering it perfectly. The flash was perfectly timed to make sure he didn't die to the turret, and Diable gets the kill credit and now gets a better chance of carrying the game. This is exactly what BFX like to do. This is their comfort zone, and, you know, we talked about it. Their comp is definitely easier to pilot because you can get Talia out on the map and moving. Having gold in the pocket of Diable makes things even more efficient for them.
Raptor now going to look to just set up vision control towards this bot side, maybe try to lean into the lead that Diable's sitting on and play for this dragon. GIDEON and Lehends nearby, though, who has graduated to level 3. So the legend of Nongshim is averaging a level every 2 minutes, maybe a little bit longer than that. Don't know the stats on that. But don't think it's pretty hot. It's still, he's just still wanting to cover GIDEON, right? So he starts this dragon up. He's going to sack some XP, finally get back down there, try and collect some as they have. It's actually BNK that has swapped Diable into a 1v1 of his own. And Raptor smells trouble. Knows the dragon is out of the pit. VicLa as well has the Weaver's Wall available. Yep, good call. Lehends level 3. I've said it so many times, but I mean, it's just such a big factor in slowing down how Nongshim can even approach some of these fights. But it doesn't look like there's going to be any sort of skirmish just yet. Unless Lehends wants to start it. Kellin going to knock the rail out before a crashdown comes across. And Nongshim do end up grabbing that dragon.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good for Nongshim to be able to get anything on the map this early on with the comp that BFX drafted. Jiwoo now just taking a ridiculous amount of damage. If you fail to, you know, arcane shift away from that melee form damage coming in from the Jace, it can be really tough in that matchup, and we are definitely starting to see that as you know, Jace is a little bit problematic to try and deal with for a lot of these squishier ranged champions. That matchup not nearly as favorable as it might have been at level 3. But now with Grubs up on the map, the real question is who wants to prioritize that?
Oh, Lehends. He allows the True Shot Barrage to hit. Jiwoo, though, has to be really careful. He's going to arcade shift forward there. He has his flash. Heal for the speed up. Flash in straight order. Clear. We don't flash straight against an Ezreal, and that is going to cost him another death.
Literally any other flash saves his life in that play.
Yep.
It's just a pretty big mistake from him on the Jace. I can't really be getting away with that. Raptor, meanwhile, is at the very least going to be taking these grubs. Very nice for BFX to be able to have this to play the map a little bit more efficiently with that Talia, with that Lee Sin. GIDEON now getting invaded.
GIDEON. Yep, gonna pop the Crescent Guard, but Raptor gonna flash kick after the Sonic Wave. Talia wall coming across. GIDEON gonna flash under his turret. Raptor, though, one auto short. And I think he dies. No, the heal can't even save him. That's feats of warfare for Nongshim. One auto short from such a great play as Raptor really showing off how proficient he is on the Lee Sin. But it's a trade nonetheless.
It's so close to VicLa just landing one of those Q rocks, and that would have picked up the kill. It would have meant that you could actually survive there as Raptor, but still, overall, an okay play for the Lee Sin. You want to try and trade it as much as possible. Kalix looking for VicLa here.
Yep, first battle, perfect execution. Second one
Raptor.
comes, the Raptor is here, going to try and use the shadow. He's going to flash forward to Kalix, he's going to find the kill. Raptor had the assassin right next to him, but the shroud makes sure that Kalix makes it a trade. Raptor will clean it up, but some real mechanical prowess already thrown down 10 minutes into our game 2.
Yeah, I love this out of Kalix. I love seeing him feel, comfortable enough to try and trade his life to pick up some gold. Getting gold on the Akali is important in this game. Another trade.
The arcane shift
barrier.
rule. Okay, barrier saves him, but I get nervous every time I watch an early game Ezreal arcane shift any direction but backward, and that is exactly why, right there.
Yeah, it's always a heart-stopping moment, especially for Jiwoo, who's constantly in this game of cat and mouse with this Jace, where both can kill each other if either ends up making a mistake. So definitely fun to see that play out here. So far, it's definitely been to the benefit of the Ezreal, despite the resources.
I mean, that's just a pure predict from Clear, right? Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, when you're Jace, and I'm sure the Jace players can confirm, you're throwing that shock blast into every single bush you possibly can, and when one of them lands, you feel completely justified, and that's exactly what just happened. Clear getting some gold back is pretty huge here. Again, you need to be able to fight in the mid game, where I think BFX really thrives in this, is that mid game power spike where they can start fighting over these neutral objectives. If you start getting, enough gold on the Lee, enough gold on the Jace, gold on the Xayah, things can get easier. Nongshim at least want to try and pressure out the rest of BFX, though.
It's a good point to make, Kman. The power of first item spiking in this game is more relevant than a lot of the games you're going to see here at the ASIs. Kalix is going to have to drop the Shroud early. Raptor looking for a bit of a dive angle. They have Kellin and VicLa TPing behind. This is virtually 1 versus 4. Kick down. Sonic Wave coming across, and Kalix should drop. Public Execution gets away from the Weaver's Wall, or the flick back, excuse me. Kalix still ends up dropping, and on top of that, with the power of Grubs, even despite the plates, BNK are going to grab first turret at 11.5 minutes in.
Exactly what you need to do as BFX. Continue to stay active and look on the map. Dragon is in 45 seconds. That first one was taken by Nongshim, of course. This one does need to be corralled by BFX. You cannot start getting that out of control. You can't let it get out of control if you're BFXer. You need to make sure that Nongshim is kind of on a tight grip when it comes to those neutral objectives. You certainly have the comp to do that, but that extra gold going into the pocket of Clear, finishing that Youmuu's, that could be the push they need in order to make sure they feel comfortable.
We've got the Essence Reaver on Diable as well done by this point. There's no Trinity Force just yet. There's no Roa stacking here for Kingen. Not a Rocket Belt available for Kalix just yet. In a game where minutes are just so precious with how mid-game oriented these comps are, it's really going to hurt Nongshim every second they don't have matching legendary items.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the problem, right? Is you're already looking at a game that's basically going to be determined by who walks out of the 15-minute mark with more gold. And it's a spot where BFX have set themselves up to be in a better position for it. And that's what's going to happen now, as Raptor is going to be starting up on the Dragon, at least getting into the pit. This looks like it is going to be the fight.
Okay, Lehends immediately flash double stuns into a crash down Magnet Storm as well, but they can't get the damage dealers in, so Raptor's able to survive. He does need a WQ combo from Jiwoo. Has to bail out of the pit. Diable now off to the top side. Lehends with the spill double ghost is just trying to keep Diable off of this Drake pit, but Diable ever aggressive, stepping up with Kellin nearby. Nongshim, though, have control of this Drake pit, and Raptor trying to heal up aggressively, has a steal ankle if he wants to go in for, but Gideon secures the Drake. So Nongshim, despite being down gold as they have all game long, do have the win con of the Dragons, and now they're feeling pretty bullish about maybe going for a fight here. So poke down, Jiwoo's going to need a Sonic Wave, good arcane shift, make sure that Raptor can't go for a flash kick that isn't even up. So yeah, win con available for Nongshim. They have the 2 first Drakes of a Chemtech Soul Game 2.
Yeah, and you can give a lot of credit to that to Lehends. They really didn't have the setup, but Lehends, layering CC, at least getting Raptor low enough where he felt like he had to go and take those, so those Raptors, those namesakes to heal up as much as possible on the Lee Sin. He's just not there in time for the Dragon. And if you are able to get Soul in this game for Nongshim, forget everything I've said about this comp being hard to pilot, especially because as we know now it's Chem Soul. So this is going to be a really, really dangerous spot. BFX have opened the door for Nongshim to be able to get back into this. We'll see if they take it.
See how much they can rely on having the threat of those Dragon Souls, because it also gives you, maybe easier fight setups, like you talked about for Lehends as well. It's such a firecracker to start any of these fights for Nongshim going forward, but they are still down a significant chunk of gold, just over about 2,000, and Diable has a very good chance to make it even worse here. GIDEON going to have to slide over to cover this mid-tier 1 turret. And that one will not just be more gold coming across, but getting that turret in particular off the map is so valuable for future setups around any of these objectives.
Yeah, especially this early into the game, if you can really start to establish that push and, draw those lines in the sand, if you will, make sure those minion waves are getting caught at the proper times and, making sure that Nongshim just don't really have a lot of chances. That could be really, really bad for Nongshim. But right now, I want to try to make a play onto VicLa. Raptor's here.
Raptor's nearby. First stun gonna land into the crash down, into the bomb, but from Kingen throws him into the Xin Zhao. That's how you layer some big time CC from Lehends. He's gonna Magnet Storm grab Raptor trying to go, and he's gonna have to flash after, but the stuns are layering once again. Lehends trying to make the difference with the turrets, the one that sings his final song. Lehends traded for VicLa, 4 versus 4. But it's Nongshim that have much more power in their split of the trade, and that's going to give them another neutral objective that we felt like BNK should have had control of.
Yeah, Raptor's just too low.
Kalix, perfect execution, gets Raptor without the flash and without a ward to hop towards. Nongshim are just brute forcing themselves back into this game, and now Kman, you got a TP coming behind here from VicLa. The Herald's already secured here. I think they're going after Jiwoo. Diable's throwing down 1v1 Weaver's Wall. Good arcade shift from Jiwoo. He's got to get away from the flick back. It's a predict play for VicLa, but Jiwoo just doesn't flash. He kind of just mogs on him.
This is a nightmare situation for BFX. They burn so many resources to try and salvage a play that they should be winning, basically no matter what, and yet everything ends up falling apart. The layering on the top side from VicLa in that early fight to try and get Lehends off of him was just about as bad as possible. He really only used his shove once he knew Lehends was invulnerable, crashing down from that Rel engage. And it's really misplayed by him. Raptor's not able to get back up on time. Clear does a good job trying to turn things back, but this is huge for Nongshim. Again, not only are they staying in this game, they're thriving in a lot of these fights. 2 kills now onto this Akali, looking for a third.
Oh, yeah, without perfect execution, though, right? So Kalix is trying to get it done the much more difficult way with 5 finger strikes. VicLa gets the Seraph shield, but energy versus mana right now showing off is the shuriken flick back. Kalix dialed into this Akali after an early game slip.
Yeah, it's just not close. I think if there was a concern for BFX going into this series, it's that, you can make an argument that VicLa has been the weak link for this team since day one, all year long. LPL fans are going to remember that from last year as well. This is perfectly played, by the way, from Nongshim to layer everything together. Lehends, holds his crash down until he knows that there's no way for VicLa to be able to outplay it. It is a good job here by Clear and Raptor to be able to pull things back. Kellin as well, who I think played this, but again, Diable's not in these fights, and he's where a lot of the pressure is going to come from for the rest of the game. It is really up to Clear and Diable to try and keep this in BFX's favor.
As we talk about the damage makeup of these two teams that want to fight in the mid game, I want to point out especially back towards the mid lane you're talking about, because VicLa, nature of this Taliyah, the Seraphs first, they're going to build, maybe lean some more scaling. There is a Blast Wand in his inventory to maybe bring some more mid-game damage, but on the flip side, it's Kalix, right? Rocket Belt's done. Needlessly large Rod in the inventory. There's a lot more Rod damage this Akali's going to bring. You've got the Trinity Force Spike versus an Essence Reaver that plays a bit more towards scaling and mana comfortability here for Diable versus Jiwoo. The gold is starting to really slow down, and the items are going to give even more advantage for Nongshim to get this, Chemtech Soul Point early again. Second game in a row, Kman, and it's going to go uncontested. A turret trade is all that BNK are going to find on this top side.
I think this is a huge mistake from BFX to not even attempt to try and contest this. Yes, the Rift Herald was used in the mid lane and you were able to get the stop to that. No mid turret went down, but to trade this for pressure on the top side, I just don't think is worth it. Giving over Soul Point, I think, is a hard thing to come back from. And it's not like this comp gets better as the game goes along. I think the strongest that BFX will ever be is already done. Question now is, can they try and play around their AD carry? But Nongshim just playing the map better. We said this in game one. Their control over the map was much more clinical, and this is where you have to imagine the veterans are coming in. Players like Kingen and Lehends that have had a ton of success and experience at top-end levels. You have to imagine that they're the ones kind of really pushing Nongshim into a better direction and helping them make better calls here.
And where does that next journey start here for the macro leading team in Nongshim? Got Otacon in about 30 seconds here, and I do want to go back visiting towards those items, because you talk about when do champions get their strongest? Well, you can make an argument, level 11 Ezreal with more mana, this is pretty much one of the scariest points you're going to get for an Ezreal for Jiwoo.
Completely agree. I mean, Jiwoo's in a crazy good spot right now, and we've already seen the execution come through with the Ezreal in this game, but it's not just Jiwoo. You know, we've seen Kalix obviously make some big plays, but we're starting to get to the point where the Xin Zhao is going to become a very big problem to try and break through, because it is just the Xayah that really has the chance. Maybe the Jace, if you can get into a good spot to break through this Xin Zhao, but a trap being set here by Nongshim.
Nice, Kellin. Sniffs it out. He's going to be able to survive. Just give up more vision control here. The Otacon is on the bot side for this game, so that's why you're seeing Nongshim lean so heavily towards this side of the map, as King is going to try and cut down even more vision, bring more fog forward here for BNK. And again, back towards this, Ezreal, right? The power early is you can have those 1v1 matchups for the Ezreal. The power in the mid game is that if Jiwoo is playing correctly, you should really never be threatened on those mid waves. See the blast going from GIDEON and Lehends, just getting more vision control. Another thing you talked about, Kman, if we're pulling parallels from game one, is that Nongshim do really good playing safe on the flip side of the map, as Kalix brings two people over, and they're starting up the Otacon on the flip end.
Yeah, this is huge. Raptor is on the bottom side, but Diable's not here. He's taking mid-tower.
Oh, we can't trade Otacon, too. We're just giving up so many of these neutrals. It's going to be, what, a Shock Blast steal from Clear? Raptor going to get over the wall in time? No. GIDEON secures it. It's another turret for huge neutral trade here. Diable and the rest of them are trying to all in for a tier 2 turret, but they're not even going to get that. They're poked down so much that they might even get routed on the flank right now, Kman.
It's an absolute nightmare for BFX. I cannot imagine why this call was made. VicLa is not out of danger yet.
Slippery stones enough, but look, so they're just going to trade the turret back.
It is truly, truly terrible now for BFX. I mean, they have taken a 2K gold lead, which, by the way, they've had throughout the entirety of this game. They have never really at any point been down in gold. They have constantly been up in gold, and all they've done is waste it on the map with bad macro decisions and an unwillingness to contest when you are Jace, Lee Sin, and Talia. To give over every objective in this game is just a fundamental misunderstanding of how you need to be playing it out, and Nongshim, to their credit, is taking full advantage. They're basically calling BFX's bluff. They're starting every objective knowing that they're not going to be in a position to step up and take it, and they are benefiting so much from it.
BFX is playing this game like they're playing a game of Monopoly, but the instructions they had were for Scrabble. That's where we're at right now in this game state, and it has really hurt them because they were ahead in gold. They've been at points nearly up 3K in early aspects of this game, but there's so much that they're going to have to respond to for the rest of this game that's going to make them really panic in some of these, setup scenarios. A Chemtech Drake for Soul in a minute at 24 minutes. Again, Nongshim can be in position for a huge upgrade. You've got Baron as well. You've got pushing lanes against you in top side and bottom side right now. And even Raptor's getting picked off. He has to kick away GIDEON. Already used that Lee Sin ultimate. His Lehends maybe looking for cooldowns to refresh and go back in. But just taking away that ultimate, I mean, that ult's going to be off the board for this Chemtech Drake.
It's the worst possible thing that could happen here is Raptor just randomly getting caught in the jungle. Kellin going to at least stop the back here of Lehends, make sure he can't quite get that reset off. The Shock Blast is going to land. That's a lot of damage.
He does have Spellbook heal. Feels like he might have enough time to try and reset. Lehends is going to make that move. At least BNK have the setups across the other lanes to now contest 5v5. But, oh, with the poke from Jiwoo really started to come through. Kellin's also very low, and now Kellin can't really advertise a reset by this point either. This fight really could decide the game because BNK cannot afford to give up Chemtech's soul. Sonic Wave on the Jiwoo, no hop forward, but now the Shock Blasts are starting to layer, and the poke war is fully being waged by both teams.
Yeah, Ezreal versus Jace, very fun to watch poke-wise. Dragon has been started up. Will reset here. Moving back into the pit. The fight could happen right now, though. Watch for Kellin's ult. That's going to determine absolutely everything in this fight. Diable posturing so aggressively, understanding exactly where he needs to be. Lehends is setting a trap.
Oh, Clear so healthy. Level 15 by this point. They're trying to make sure Kalix can't find a flank angle. Redemption advantage is over towards Kellin and BNK by this point. Nongshim's going to back off the pit. Weaver's Wall going to come across. Gideon is on the wrong side. Can he dash over in time? The 50-50 could be huge, and it's secured. Chemtech stole from Gideon, and he's going to boot Raptor out of the pit far too low. Kellin's going to try and flash forward, but Gideon doesn't even get charged up. It has to be the flick back from VicLa. Is going to find Gideon. The Sundered Sky cannot save him. But Gideon accomplishes his goal. Chemtech soul here for Nongshim. It's Kalix is going to be the next one to be jumped on. Clear pushing the damage out. Raptor has hit the Sonic Wave, and he won't. Kalix able to limp away. It's only the jungler for Nongshim costed to get themselves another pre-25-minute soul.
It's just so massive for Nongshim. Once again, just being able to control space so well. It's BFX refusing to take advantage of the strengths of their comp and just waiting and waiting and waiting until eventually Gideon is able to get in and outsmite Raptor. The fact that that is a 50-50 is unacceptable. There is no zone control coming in from a team that should have so much of it on the side of BFX. And once again, it really comes back to bite them. The wall does come down quite a bit early, but at this point, you don't have the damage to burst this thing down. Diable's free hitting as much as possible, but this is indeed just a 50-50. Gideon gets the dash in, and there's no real way to play it. At this point, Raptor has no health, and yes, you are able to pull something back because Lehends is very low, but these are consolation prizes at absolute best here, giving over Chemsoul to this Nongshim
fighting
team.
over a red buff. Are these LCK teams or these LPL teams? Because I've seen this way too much in the home region. It's Raptor that gets caught by another clutch. Lehends engage. Recom comes across from Kellin. They are going to trade the jungler out, but it's a one-way trip for Kellin. Jiwoo flashing forward after VicLa with that arcade shift. There's the flash coming after him. The redemption's going to save them, and Clear is over the wall. Jiwoo has to be very careful, or he will just get blown up. It's Lehends that plays bodyguard, and Nongshim win themselves a little fight defending their own red buff.
Can I tell you something a little crazy, Slayer? BFX have a 1K gold lead.
That's the wild part, is like, if we feel like they've been playing the map so pretty poorly with the lead that they're sitting at, and they've fallen so far behind by this point in neutrals, but they're somehow still up gold, and I think most of that goes in the fact that Diable is significantly out-farming Jiwoo.
Yeah, I mean, credit to Diable, and honestly, huge credit to Kellin, who I think has had a really good game number 2 here. I think he's done everything he's needed to do to try to keep BFX in this game, but the problem is it's just not enough. When the macro calls are as bad as they've been for BFX, it doesn't really matter where the gold is. You're not ever able to actually make the fights happen. Every major fight, Diable's not even really been a part of throughout this game, and so that's the real problem, is that if you are going to play around this Xayah, you need to make sure that she's actually, I don't know, in a position to use the 1K gold lead that she's been able to generate for herself between the 80 carries.
Big spot, though, for Diable, as you talked about. IE's on board here. So now the Xayah is going to start out-producing the Ezreal. Diable also has summoner advantage versus Jiwoo, who tried to get ever aggressive in that last skirmish. So for that very talented, up-and-coming LCK 80 carry, does he have a moment to shine in the ASI? Kalix can look for an engage, but Diable has the backing of his team so far. The Shroud going to come back down. But Nongshim ushering their opponent out of the mid lane. They said, we're facing towards the top side. We have mid lane priority. As long as we can dodge some of this poke, we should be fine, as Lehends eats a full combo from Taliyah. But again, still healthy enough, still in control of this mid wave. And they're going to try and barrel down this tier 2. They use the redemption, but they're starting to get flanked and poked out. They're going to go after clear. It's Kalix looks for the engage. Weaver's Wall's coming through. VicLa's going to try and support him against a 3-man seismic shove, but it's clear that falls first. Kalix finds skill to perfect execution. Gideon's getting so much value out of this Crescent Guard. He finally goes down, but can he open up for Lehends, who finds the angle? Diable, one more auto, but no, the Flame callback gets the kill, and you see Raptor cut down Jiwoo off to the side. There's no range left here for Nongshim. Diable surviving on the edge of his health bar gives BNK a lifeline.
Somehow, someway, this game is definitely not over. Diable has very much come online with the finishing of that Infinity Edge as that third item. That's a 2k gold lead for him down on the bottom side of the map, and things can get quite precarious. I talked about how, Nongshim has some trouble being able to execute in these, big moments, and this comp is quite difficult to execute on. Well, Clear's kind of in a spot where he's just going to die to Kalix, but this engage is where things end up going completely awry. I mean, the value out of that Xin Zhao ultimate is ridiculous. Lehends with a phenomenal re-engage here, and you think, oh, well, they have him for sure, huh? No, the feather pullback, because he's able to get the 2 extra autos out in the middle, is what ends up changing that. Credit to Diable, he ends up playing that as well as possible, and again, we're seeing the hands on this kid really, really come into fruition in a game like this.
Also VicLa being able to, I think, rebound from a tough early game. He gets multiple huge seismic shoves, and that one keeps Kalix out of diving on Diable. It's the team also backing up their superstar AD to keep them in this series. They now command a decent gold chunk lead as well by this point. Will it be enough to overcome the Chemtech Soul and the Baron looming over both of these teams as they once again start the mid lane dance? But there is a way for Nongshim to have to answer in the top side. And Clear just loves any of these stretched out wave fights because he can get more and more shock blasts down that really ruin Lehends' chance to be able to open up this fight for Nongshim. It's Kalix that's looking for the flank, but there's a lot of darkness that he has to navigate through. Gonna use barrel casks, but that is a dark, dark river, Kman.
This is so dangerous for Nongshim, but they realize because
What
of
is
the way
going
that
on?
VicLa is positioning, they can't really, they can't be where they're scared of them being. Oh, the fight!
We're going after Jiwoo, gets the kick down as well. He gets out of the blade color back, though the redemption not gonna be enough. Clear does kill him off, but Raptor pays for his life. That's a huge ramping damage tool for Nongshim that comes off the board. Lehends can't find the stun onto Clear, and Diable's still up, but Kalix knows it, and he wants to mark him, goes back in, with flash up, is gonna get away from the blade collar. Diable holding on to both of his summoners, but he gets knocked out of the fight, but it's the hammer down that won't land from Clear. Kalix gets out and kills VicLa off towards the backside of this fight, and no Diable, no problem for Nongshim as they wipe down the rest of BNK.
Huge win for Nongshim that is likely going to not only save but completely end the game. Nongshim going to pick up Elder, 31-minute Elder Dragon in this game. Kalix has shown up huge, and Gideon had a phenomenal team fight there, but it's all off the back of a huge mistake from Raptor. It is absolutely criminal for him to dive in and look for that play onto Jiwoo, the Ezreal. Bare minimum, you're going to be trading 1 for 1, and all of a sudden the smite is gone, and then the fight just does not go their way. It's been a series of misplays and misfortunes for BFX, and it's just not enough. It's actually Kellin who goes in first, and then Raptor follows up. It's just a poor engage. It's poorly timed. It's not correct in terms of the game state that they're in, and forcing now this 4v4 against Nongshim is so difficult when the Akali basically has free reign. You have no Lee Sin kick to try and dissuade her from going in, so Diable just kind of has to do what he can. Kalix with the stopwatch, though, makes the most of it.
Kingen just using the cast to get Diable away. So clutch in that fight.
It's just perfectly played by everyone involved for Nongshim, and this is where it comes down to what we were talking about in Game 1. It's execution. Although Kingen potentially caught, speaking of Game 1.
Yeah, speaking of Game 1, right on tote. Going to interrupt the recast of the Sonic Wave there with the body slam. Kingen gets the slow again. It's going to pick VicLa's Weaver's Wall back out. They really want this
Baron,
Elder off of him. Explosive cast used, and Kingen will fall. But just like Game 1, what value do Nongshim get off the back end of it? That is a tier 2 in the top lane and 4 members rocking Elder and Baron at the same time. And you know Kalix ain't slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, this guy's like the king of the sidewaves right now at this tournament in terms of how he's playing things. That's a free inhibitor for Nongshim. If they don't get it now, they're going to get it in 1 second when Jiwoo shows up. And so That's massive for Nongshim. They're going to be very happy to take that. Lehends
Oh,
looking for game.
Lehends. True shot barrage, not gonna hit Diable. He goes immediately into the blade collar, but they blow Kellin out of the water. Crescent Guard comes down. They're looking for the execute onto Diable. He's able to limp away. Clear was taking a bot lane tier 2 and hit turret, so he TP's in late. The GA is gonna stall out Raptor. He does flash away. Gideon very helpful, gets away from the flick back. They're gonna kill off Lehends instead. Jiwoo though is poked so low from Clear. It's Kalix with the re-gains, but he gets caught too far forward. Jiwoo gonna fall nearly. No, the blade collar doesn't find him, but they do cut down one. Jiwoo ends up dropping there, not walking away from his minion wave, and now Gideon gonna get jumped on by the Sonic Wave kick combination, but no, he turns it back for at least one. But despite the Elder Mountain to overcome, BNK keep themselves alive in this game too.
Slayer, I am having the time of my life watching this game right now. There are two teams that are in perfect position to either win the game or they've thrown the game, and it's just back and forth and back and forth. The moment that we think it's unwinnable for BFX, that's when the Grasshopper strikes again, and we see BFX pull the Baron buffs, pull the Elder buff off of Nongshim, and reset the game completely. They're up in gold. Again, everything's basically neutral. Now, Chem Dragon, Chem Soul still on the side of Nongshim, but outside of that, every buff that they had gotten over the last 5 minutes has been neutralized. Clear is huge. If he can continue to output this damage, that could be massive for BFX moving forward as a complement to Diable.
And let's look back at this fight, because you just said his name. Clear, even though he TP's in late, really is the difference maker to save BNK from losing the game right here. And maybe also Kalix diving under a Nexus turret. Just a little bit of over-aggression from Nongshim.
Just a little bit, I think is fair to say, but it's the damage coming in. He completely chunks out Jiwoo at the start of this fight, and you cannot forget about this Jace. You cannot just imagine that you're going to be able to win, you know, when he plays it normally, because, you know, Clear ends up playing it really well here, and the Jace damage is very, very real at this point. Now, credit to Diable. He does a great job of being able to follow up with that damage. First off, this is also pretty funny to just show where the Lee Sin is at in this game, but, you know, this Xayah-Jace combo is a huge problem, and you can't just guarantee a fight win if you don't end up playing it well. Nongshim's comp still requires a ton of, how shall we say, perfect execution. So we'll see if they can end up living up to that, or whether or not BFX have a comeback in them.
As a death cap done for Kalix. His damage is near topped off by this point in the game. Save to be soon set for Clear. Once he locks himself in one more of those lethality items, it's Nongshim there looking for the last turret outside of BNK's base is VicLa. Takes a huge lick here. Jiwoo trying to answer the poke wars as the close cast going to come down, throw Diable up forward, and he has to burn the Feather Storm as well. Has the GA. Those are huge cooldowns to get off of BNK, and they know it. They have to retreat back into their turtle shell of a base, and we'll soon see the last turret standing outside of their walls.
That's perfectly played by Nongshim, just controlling the space as well as you can, getting as much damage as possible. VicLa wanting to step up because he feels like he needs to clear the wave, but it's just really difficult for him to be able to do that without getting really heavily punished here. It's bot lane tier 2 going down. A lot of the base and the defenses are gone for BFX. Elder will eventually respawn. Baron will eventually respawn in just about 2 minutes here. You know, this game is certainly not over for either team. It's very, very well played for Nongshim, but they got to keep it up.
It's a great point to make here, Kman, is that the state of the waves right now for BNK is going to make it hard for them to try and set up for those game-defining Elder or Baron fights. They are likely to be walking in and clearing vision as they go, because they're scrambling right now to pick up some of these camps. You saw VicLa try and push out the top side, but that wave state's going to be flipped pretty soon here as we see another explosive class. Clear gets away from the body slam, though. Kingen is caught. He's going to go into the stasis, but Nongshim is just going to have to leave him for the Wolves and be careful they don't lose anybody else. It's Lehends that crashes back over the wall, and the crack's starting to show in the armor. For the Nongshim side, BNK smell blood in the water. They're looking to push the tempo. Kalix on the flank. Going to be spotted here. He has to be really careful about his timing going in. If they die now, they flip huge objectives. Elder is back out on the Rift right now for BNK.
This is 4v5. Kalix is on a flank, but he's being completely guarded by Clear here. This should be BFX's, but we will see if they can do it without the damage coming in from the Jace.
Oh, Kalix goes to the stasis. They're going to turn back onto him. Flashes away. Weaver's Wall traps him. Raptor going to kick Gideon away from him. Elder down to about 10k.
Raptor's
no 50-50 in sight here. No explosive blast is going to come through. Clear going to get engaged on her, trying to get the G off it, but a huge flick from VicLa finds Lehends. Jiwoo has to bail out of the fight. GIDEON as well. It's Kalix coming in for the flank lane, but the Elder is secured by BNK, and Kalix is going to have to pay the Pied Piper. Down he goes to the Greybeard's breath, and BNK have life once more.
Big VicLa coming in clutch here.
Oh, Diable! See you later, Jiwoo. Pack it in for a whole minute, buddy.
God, it's just so beautiful from BFX. The fight honestly doesn't look all that good from them at the start, but you cannot underestimate the damage from this Xayah Jace combo. And again, you get one big shove from VicLa, and all of the sudden, everything starts to go in BFX's favor. They are pushing for everything right now. Death timers are super long, but looks like they are just going to back off here with what they've taken. Baron is up on the map, and that is the objective now.
And there's just no way I think Nongshim could really contest. GIDEON, do you have a steal in you? Kalix up in 8 seconds. He can TP in, but I don't even think that's enough time. Baron just gets shredded. And now BNK get their turn. Kman at the good old Baron Elder combo onto 5.
Look, I'm not going to say that, you know, when I said that the game was easier for BFX to play, I expected this type of game. But one thing to note, like BFX, despite all their mistakes, despite every map play that they made wrong, every fight that they could have played a bit better, this gold lead was never a problem for them. They were never in a position where it felt impossible for them to get online and to get back into the game if they played 1 or 2 fights a little bit better because of the amount of setup and the easy amount of map control that they were able to have. Well, here you go. The lead is firmly in favor of BFX, and it is their game to lose after looking solely lost for them in their own base.
And now it's Nongshim that have to play the stall. Elder, about 3/4 done. So that buff comes off the board soon, but Baron, a much bigger problem for them to deal with. Multiple waves going to be pouring in here, and every shock blast has the threat of a kill. If this Elder is still up, Jiwoo going to be comfortably cutting down the first wave, but it's BNK that's going to target the top side. They're now going to make sure there are no structures standing outside of the Nongshim walls, and they'll be uncontested in that. That should be the last wave they're bringing up. They'll have Elder on them, BNK.
Yeah, this is huge. This could be the final push of the game. Weaver's wall coming down.
And he's going to get Diable. Featherstorm out. Kellin gets caught in the middle of his combo. Diable is left by himself. Kellin goes in. There's the GA. Redemption comes down, but Diable is surrounded. And again, both of our teams have now thrown their Elder Baron power plays. And it's Nongshim that want to play killer. Teleport from Kingen. He gets away from a seismic shove. Gets the Edge of Night off of clear. Doesn't find the slow. But now with those really long death timers, how much can Nongshim get done?
I think a ton. All of the gold is on Diable, and he's dead for 40 seconds. They have full control over what they want on the map. Every single wave is theirs at the current moment. Slayer, the only thing I have left to say at this point is one team will have gotten both Baron and Elder and lost the game. Guaranteed. There's nothing else that encapsulates the game better than where we are at right now. 21-20. Gold basically, you know, unimportant at this point. Just absolutely ridiculous stuff. Nongshim gonna try to set themselves up, but the game is not over. Baron buff is technically still up for 35 seconds. I need to see what happened here on this replay. It's a good engage from Lehends. It's just Diable stepping up too far forward and getting caught. Like, there is nothing else left to say. He has to burn all of his peel tools. The cask was gorgeous as well, but Kellin has to give his life just to keep his AD carry alive, and Diable at that point doesn't have the escape tools because he's already burned the ult, and so it's a massive mistake from the young prodigy AD carry here for BFX, and it could be the entire game that ends up paying the price.
Definitely has left us in a very weird state. We're 42 minutes in, but we might stall a bit out here because Elder is still a couple minutes away. Baron's another minute behind that, so unless we find some creative angles for engages, we're just going to trade waves at 42 minutes like it's 18 minutes into our game with no objectives to play for.
Oh, man. It's peak League of Legends. This is the international tournament that I signed up for. I wanted to see, you know, some of the best teams in the world go head-to-head, and I can't pretend like I'm getting anything other than that right now. I'm getting peak entertainment out of these two teams, and this next fight is going to determine everything. Again, 1 minute on the third Elder Dragon of this game. Whoever wins it wins the game. Pure and simple. You cannot get caught out right now.
It's important to remember there are a ton of GAs in this game, but Diable sells his for a Maw, so he does not have that GA. Jiwoo is actually not full build by this point, holding onto a longsword. That's pretty crazy. I think he might straight up take a reset for full items by this point. You've got both GAs up on Raptor and Clear, as well as Gideon. But the fact Diable does not have that GA to bail him out from another one of those missteps is huge to watch for. This fights are not one for BNK unless it's Diable. They're going to go for Kalix for a pick. There's the charm. Flashes out of the knockup, though. Kalix having to burn a ton to get himself out safely, but he still survives a very long death timer.
Yeah, I think this is relevant not only because he survived, but because you burned Recon Ultimate on that play as well. That makes the fight so much more difficult around this Elder Dragon in 20 seconds, and now Nongshim just get to zone them entirely off of it.
It's been very tough for them to win the poke war because they have that assassin Akali, but just 2 feathers passing by. Kalix takes about 15% of his HP bar, but like you mentioned, Kman, Nongshim are on the side of the Elder Dragon. The third one of our game is onto the rift here. Kalix looking for another flank down, but Clear with that Edge of Night feels pretty comfortable. He's going to throw the Shroud down, get that off him. Clear's going to flash after Kalix. Does have the Zhonya's if he needs it. Redemption's come down to top off the BFS members. Oh, that was a big Q coming across here from Jiwoo, trying to even the health bars. As we go back to dancing towards the mid lane, Nongshim with an open inhibitor in mid lane. Cannot sacrifice the control of this wave. Good call. Quickness coming right back up for Kellin. It's Gideon that gets caught diving forward after VicLa. Kalix off to the side trying to use the Shroud, but he has no angle in. It's the cast from Kingen again. Gets VicLa caught. He goes into the stasis. The charm knockup gets Diable enough space though. Getting back, but Lehends finds the double stun. Jiwoo is down, and that's going to seal it for BNK. Kingen's barrel does not save them. It's Gideon trying to rescue with Lehends, but with Diable cut down, it's just not enough. BNK are going to survive to send this match to 3. Lehends cannot count the wave down in time. The death timers are just too long.
I imagine this is going to be the game, but right now, it's actually Elder that's going to be the priority here for BFX. We're not even getting to the end of the game just yet. They want to make sure that they can get everything they can with 2 left alive. You can see it there, the longest game for either of these 2 teams, and you see it in their gameplay. I think it's fair to bring up
buddy.
that... Oh, no.
Okay,
oh, my God. I was going to lose my mind. Absolutely ridiculous. Lehends just not even choosing to recall. BFX can very easily make their way up to the Baron now, and they might not be marching down the base, but they're getting about as close as they can get with all of these buffs. This play we're going to get a replay on. It's Gideon who actually dashes in first, but VicLa almost immediately shuts down the entire engage with that Taliyah kit. It's why that champion has been so valuable and so prioritized all year long. This looks doomed, but VicLa, with the perfectly timed stopwatch, played just about as well as you possibly can here. You get the knockup coming in from Kellin. Again, really just keeping his AD carry alive and giving him the opportunity to continue to play. At this point, it is impossible to move forward for Nongshim. Kingen's cast goes to waste. Gideon doesn't have the damage to break through. And once again, it's BFX coming up clutch. The pendulum swings back and forth, but the Foxes seem to have full control over it right now.
Third time this game, a team has worn Baron and Elder side by side. Will it be enough? Third time's the charm. A mantra for a reason. Will it be the one of BNK as they try and usher these waves up? Main goal here is to set Clear up for huge poke on this Jace. And also what he's done all late game long, Kman. He's just thwarting these Kalix flanks, daring him to jump in after him, knowing that he has just so much more burst and so much more threat with this Elder.
Yeah, he's been huge for this BFX team. He is going to need to continue to live up to that hype, that top prospect billing that he had for so long in DRX's system, as BFX look to close out this game.
All right, they want this bottom lane turret, but they've lost their wave. Jiwoo's done a really good job cutting it down. He snipes out these cannon minions, so get relatively no value out of the Weaver's Wall from VicLa. Diable taking some decent poke as well. But now they have a pretty powerful wave, and Nongshim are going to have to back off. Baron about halfway done. BNK going to try and use every ounce of this Elder as they start to threaten onto these Nexus turrets. Jiwoo can't really clear the wave. The cast coming out from Kingen can't either. First Nexus turret going to fall. Lehends can't find a stun on a Diable who's playing on the edge of his range. The cannon minis will get it done. First Nexus turret's down. Clear throwing down the huge amount of damage. They re-engage on Diable, but a great Feather Storm gets him out of the first amount of damage, and he will survive and thrive. We're going the distance here in our second bout of the ASI as BNK bounce back to go even against Nongshim.
In a game where both teams had every right to walk out as the winner, it's BNK FEARX that end up grabbing hold of the game and wrestling it down to the ground. Chaos incarnate. That is all that I could possibly tell you, Slayer, that this game consisted of. I mean, truly, there is so much to dissect in terms of where these two teams were at, in terms of the players and the plays that stepped up, even individual moments from these, players. But at the end of the day, what it came down to is just the fact that the resources were more consistent on BFX. The Xayah and the Jace were the two highest damage dealers in the game. Haven't seen the chart. I can basically promise you that that is the case, and that really ended up being the difference here.
What a performance here from Clear especially, right? I think Diable, yeah, there you go. Clear and Diable combined for a hair over 110,000 damage in this game too.
Just ridiculous. And I'm gonna say it now. Diable's scoreline looks good. If Clear doesn't get player of the game for this one, I think something...
What are we doing?
I think there was a big mistake, because I think he won this game for his team, not only in terms of the damage, but in terms of the positioning in the early and the mid game. Everything ran through this Jace. Clear was a player we questioned going into this series, not because he hasn't had good games. On the contrary, he's had some really good games, and I'd love to see those good games more often. And at least in this one, in game number 2, when their backs were up against the wall, he stepped up and he lived up to the billing.
We'll have to see if he earns himself the player of the game there. But Kman, another good call from you on the draft. It feels like the ease of execution is kind of just what has marred our series so far.
I don't want to say that that's, that League is an easy, simple game, because it's not. A lot of times more difficult to execute comps are going to be able to win, but I think especially when you're not the number 1 or number 2 seed in your region, sometimes picking Taliyah and Xayah and Jace and Rakan and just being able to try and, play these situations out a little bit more consistently just makes things easier. I love Akali. I think that champion can perform really well. Even something like an Ezreal can have a huge impact on the game, but these champions require you to be in the right place at the right time. Even when Nongshim were making the right decisions and controlling the map, they were even or down in gold throughout the entire game. And I think a lot of that just comes down to how much easier it is for the control to go over to the side of BFX here.
We really felt the difference in marksman form in this game too, right? Speaking on him, I love the crazy play selection, by the way. We went from the level 2 kill that Jiwoo got to 30 minutes in this game.
I kind of get it, because you would have 45 replays if you were anything else. I mean, so much action happened. Hey, you never know, right? Like, we've got a break here. We can run it, but I mean, this was the game-losing play, right? Is them sticking around in the base and not respecting Clear's damage. The flash over ends up saving the game, coming in from the Jace, and then being able to clean up this fight. All of a sudden, things were completely neutral from this point onwards, and it really just came down to who was going to execute better. Now, both teams ended up executing quite poorly at the end of this game. We had that lower third pop up talking about how this is the longest game of the year for both of these teams. I think it showed in gameplay. I don't think either of these teams felt comfortable in this stage, especially, you draft Lee Sin Taliyah if you're BFX. You don't want to get here. You drafted Xin Zhao Akali. You don't really want to get here. Like, neither of these teams wanted to go 50 minutes, but it was the Xayah who had all of this protection, who had the shields from Lee Sin, who had the setup from Rakan coming in that really ended up, making the difference. And then, of course, Clear just playing. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable indeed. We'll say the Lehends really tried to rescue this comp with some of these clutch engages. You saw that last one trying to able to get Diable, the GA, get him killed off as well. Kellin caught, but yeah, it's just really rough for them to play. These small little missteps. It was Lehends missing the crash down on a Zanya's member in the base earlier. VicLa able to survive all this time. It's the small things that really turn an inch into a mile in these later game spots, and BNK showed they're just better. So now, okay, man, we're going to be set up for already a full distance series between two teams that were in the driver's seat of playoff discussions of LCK Split 3. Could BNK once again break the hearts early of Nongshim, looking for glory in a different tournament? We'll have to set it all up for Game 3 now.
And that's really the question, right? A lot of things are taken off the board, as much as we can talk about, oh, you know, we're so used to best of fives now coming out of the playoffs, but these teams didn't play a lot of best of fives over the course of their year. These aren't teams that necessarily have shown to have the deepest champion pools in the universe. I presume Nongshim getting blue side for game number 3 is going to be a pretty important factor for them. It's something that I imagine they're going to take full advantage of, but a lot of power picks still up on the board that could either be banned out or left through. Things like Wukong and Kaisa and a lot of these other big picks that have not really been allowed at any point. But MVP coming through. Oh, we had to understand. Right. We have to understand that 80 carry bias. He did a lot of damage.
Look at the goal difference at end. I think is what might have sealed this one. He was 7K. He was before that final fight. Diable was up 5.3K, maybe 6.2 over Jiwoo. I know gold didn't matter, but that's still an astronomical amount of a gold lead, Kman.
Yeah, and when I sit here and give a lot of praise to BNK FEARX for maintaining a gold lead despite throwing things on the map, you're looking at why. Like, Diable is the reason why that team was able to stay neutral in terms of gold. He played excellent in some fights, made a couple of mistakes, but who didn't in this game? You don't go 50 minutes without those. I can't be too mad at this selection.
Scrappy by nature, but BNK get themselves a very clutch win nonetheless and set us up for our first Game 3 of the Asia Invitational between two of our LCK representatives. Once we get back from a much-needed break, we will go into Game 3 draft to see who will grab the first win of Group B, Nongshim or BNK. We'll see you guys on the other side.